Hey everyone, this is Edward Seymour. I figured I'd do a quick talk on directing and editing. The reason why I'm doing them both together is because I think nowadays you can't really talk about one without talking about the other, considering the fact that so much is done in post-production nowadays with digital moves being put on shots and special effects and recomposing shots. The resolution of the cameras are so good that literally you can have a medium shot and create a close-up out of it, and it still looks fine. I think that the two terms are becoming more and more sort of melded together, and especially in independent filmmaking, you always hear about director editors, and a lot of the best indie directors edit their own stuff. Not all of them, I'm just saying some, You sort of have the big budget directing where you have a director, and then there's an assistant director, and then there's a DP, and then maybe even a camera operator, and then there's a gaffer helping with your lighting and grips to assist them, and so it's different. When we talk about directing for a Hollywood film, you have so many personnel at your disposal. Underground filmmaking, sometimes the director is even operating the camera, so you're forced to be more hands-on in the underground film world. To talk about, directing, some Hollywood directors say that 90% of directing is casting. And, I don't know if I agree with that, but it makes a lot of sense. I mean, if you hire this incredible actor and, the script is pretty good, then as long as you're not a total idiot, as long as you're capturing the performance in a way that supports what the actor's doing, then you're going to be okay. And sometimes that's okay to do. Sometimes, if you know you're working with some sort of actor genius, and the best technique to use directing-wise is to literally figure out the best way to capture their performance and take their lead, whatever works, works. I mean, as much as you're sort of the captain of the ship and you want to be calling the shots, you can't have your ego involved so much that you don't see what's best for the film, So if an actor has a good idea and it's different than what you had in your head, if it's better, you got to take it. Just the same with almost everyone on the set. Sometimes it gets a little overwhelming. You have on my sets, it's a lot of people I know, and we're getting ideas constantly. I'm getting ideas, and you have to sort of filter through them, and it's a tightrope, right? Because you have to stick to your guns, and you have to know internally what is right for the film. You're setting the tone for the film, so only you know what breaks outside of that. Only you know if a performance is too big and it doesn't match the rest. If the performance needs to start here and get more intense as the film goes on, that's part of your job, to regulate that and decide how much the performance should build and how big it should be, how small, how little energy, how much energy. It is sort of like it's very much like music. You have to set a tone, and there's in everything there's melody to. There's a pace and a melody to the acting. There's a pace and melody to the editing. As a director on an independent set, you're the one who really holds the key. But it's the kind of thing where you have to go in and be totally ridiculously over-prepared. You need to know the story in and out. You need to have storyboards. You need to understand what you need out of the actors and what's required from their characters and what breaks outside of the performance. You need to know all that stuff, but in the same sense, you have to have the know-how to work on the fly, especially in the independent world. There's going to be things that fly out of control. You may even have to recast on the spot. You may have to use a different location you didn't want to. You may get to a location to decide that your storyboards don't work for shit, so you might have to just reorganize and retry. So really, it does become a situation where you over-prepare, but then be prepared to throw everything out the window. So that's some of the influence. A lot of these big Hollywood films, a lot of what the money buys, I believe, is a controlled environment more than anything else. I mean, yeah, it brings stars and it brings, a certain amount of, extra toys, things like that. But really, it's a controlled environment. You don't always have that in the indie world, and it's really great when you do. Like, for instance, we just shot Rudyard Kipling's Mark of the Beast, starring Ellen Muth and W. Rochon, and that was really exciting to have those two in the same film. And you may remember Ellen Muth from the Dead Like Me Showtime series and then movie, and then W. Rochon is just, you know, a B-movie legend, you know. If you know anything about horror, you know who W. Rochon is. So we were on the set and just working with those guys in the environment that we had. We just got really lucky. We were able to work on a camp in the middle of this forest in New England, and we were undisturbed for 10 days straight. So you can imagine what an amazing thing it was to have a quiet area that was unaffected, that no one could mess with you with, and you could go in and direct what you want. It was really a privilege, you know. That experience happens, and you never want to go back to shooting in a cafe for 2 hours while they'll let you be in there, you know, before they open or, you know, after they close, you know. So you really do, you do have to think of things in a very practical sense. One of the things that I will say, and people don't do when they're first starting out, is a lot of the times they don't have the guts to approach the actor and say exactly what they need out of them. You know what I mean? I was like that in the first couple features I did. I would talk to the actors, but I'd dance around the subject a little bit. You know, a lot of the times what actors absolutely hate is when someone does line readings to them. You know, it's really disrespectful, and I've seen people who I've worked with in the past used to do line readings to their actors. So they would literally go, okay, say the line like this, you know, he walked down the street, you know what I mean? Like, they would literally give the line reading and they go, okay, do that. You hire the actor to do their thing, right? Maybe they go outside of the context and you have to rein them in. But if you're giving line readings to them, A, it's disrespectful to them. If you can't communicate with the actor and tell them, give them a sense of where they need to be emotionally and how big or small the performance is, or you know, whatever. If you can't do that, if you have to give them a line reading, then it's just not cool, you know. So I mean, there's, you know, I'm not saying I have all the answers. I do what I can. You know, I'm still learning as a director. But, you know, if you need a certain rhythm out of the dialogue, that's one thing. If you need a certain pace, that's another thing. If you need a certain energy, that's another thing. I know that, who was I talking to? Debbie Rochon, and she was talking about how it was sort of like, you know, inside joke in the industry to have this term, to have this saying, and it was, you know, bigger, faster, louder. And that was like the joke of the thing, as a director, to say, okay, we just need it bigger, faster, and louder. And it sounds ridiculous, and it doesn't apply to every scene, but man, sometimes it really does. Sometimes you need it bigger, faster, and louder. And when you tell people that and they do it, you're like, holy shit. It's simple little things like that sometimes that make a huge difference, and you feel silly saying them because it sounds so, whatever, stereotypical or just silly, but, you know, those things are totally valid. You know, saying things like, okay, give me 50% of what you're giving me now, you know, underplay. Okay, I need more energy, you know, we need the dialogue to pick up the pace, things like that. I mean, that's a lot of the stuff I work with. I know that, you know, there's directors like David Mamet who won't let their actors even manipulate, you know, a single line of the script, you know, because he is such a good writer and he writes in such rhythms that he doesn't even want extra syllables in his dialogue. He just wants it to be the same way. I understand that. I